Raleigh West of the South Carolina Conservation Bank speaks with friend and fellow conservationist Charles Lane about the connection between conservation and history and the importance of preserving battlefields and other historic sites that make up the Liberty Trail in South Carolina.
I didn't set out to become a conservationist, but when you grow up in a place like where we did, you can feel it all around you. In high school, I remember seeing this name in the paper that I kept hearing about, the Ace Basin, and Mr. Charles Lane leading the effort. I didn't know what a conservation easement is, but I said, I just want to learn about this stuff. I called you up out the blue. 5 hours later, we were talking history and landscapes, and I left there thinking, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
Being a conservationist is sort of like being religious. It sort of comes to you. We aren't just happy with saving the land. We want to save the sense of place. And in South Carolina, land history is all the same. It kind of tells the story of who we are. South Carolina really won the Revolutionary War, not by having a great military continental army. We won it because of the people in the backcountry who weren't willing to sit idly by and let Britain overtake us. It was really the sweat on their brows and using guerrilla tactics that did it. Thinking about people hiding behind a tree, ambushing a bunch of redcoats coming down the road. Well, if it's developed in that location, they'll never get the context in which the battles were fought. So you have to conserve the land to tell the story.
I grew up in the town of Moncks Corner, and inside the town limits is a place called Fort Fairlawn. I had no idea growing up in that town that it existed. About 15 years ago, there were plans to put a housing development on top of it. If you think back to the ultimate sacrifice that these common folk really made to turning the tide of the war and leading us to where we are, the least we could do is to save the sites where they spilled blood to form this country. The things that you thought would always be there are starting to disappear, which is why I think the Liberty Trail is so important.
For us to really understand where we're going to head as a country, you've got to know where we've been. And in South Carolina, historic preservation and land conservation is a shared value amongst everyone. When they see the loss of places like Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, which are not just developed, they've completely obliterated. People say, hey, wait a minute, before we lose it all, we need to save these places and we need to tell these stories. And that's what the Liberty Trail is all about.